Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business. Hello and welcome to the Energy Outlook. I'm Wisdom Chap Jumbo. Yet another week again where we come to discuss your favorite topic, energy, where we hope to analyze all of the conversations that have happened throughout this week and of course on what is happening in the sector. Before I give you an update of some of the top stories we are following, we understand that there's a grid disturbance. And some of the discos are reporting grid disturbance. So some experts are saying grid disturbance, grid collapse. It seems like we're gradually wanting to replace grid collapse with grid disturbance. As each time this disturbance happens, many areas, are thrown into darkness. But just shortly, we see some discos reporting power is restoring, but we don't know. We want to understand again what is happening with this grid disturbance. Are we taking a step higher to replace grid collapse with grid disturbance? But we will keep following that story and let you know more. Now, very disturbing, one of the top stories we are following this week is the Nigeria Air Force and the Ikeja Electric. That story is indeed very disturbing for me as we read reports that the CEO of Ikeja Electric had to, they had to put her into a car boot. Very sad. We really should not be hearing this kind of story. And this is happening, as you can see if you watch your what is happening. Ikeja Electric people running for their life. As they say, they will run for safety, trying to just fly, the fence of. This is sad. This is sad indeed. We want to call the authorities, the federal government, to indeed look at this. Whoever has authorized this by the Nigeria Air Force should really be sanctioned. This should not happen. As we understand that Ikeja Electric that disconnected power to the Nigeria Air Force base in Lagos due to alleged unpaid electricity bills. This highlights the ongoing financial challenges, of course, in the Nigeria power sector, particularly regarding debt recovery and sustainability. If the Nigeria Air Force is owing the discos, we need to look at it and make sure they are paying. But what should not be encouraged and what should not be allowed is this kind of alleged report we're getting now and the manhandling especially of the CEO of Ikeja Electric and all of its workers. This intimidation should not be allowed. But this story is what we are following and it's still an upcoming and the story that is still going on. But we just wanted to show you clips as this is a sad reality for workers and employees of Ikeja Electric. Lagos State takes over regulations of Ikeja. Lagos State takes over regulations in Lagos State. So, like from the 2023 Electoral Act, the states can, request or take over, control of the markets in their state. And Lagos, after setting up their policy, has resumed full regulatory control of the electricity market. So this is now full going on. And what will happen is ECO Disco and Ikeja Electric, we have to create subsidiaries. If I would take a minute to just read more details into that, is that a Disco and Ikeja Electric will now have to, create subsidiaries. So the Lagos State has officially taken control of its electricity market following the transfer of regulatory oversight from the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission to Lagos State Electricity Regulatory Commission in this groundbreaking development we're following this week. Now, this means it's a very historic moment for the Electricity Act of 2023, as I said earlier. It means that all discos playing in Lagos will now have to create what we call the sub-disco to take over full share in the market and begin to operate. So going forward, starting today, Lagos State will not decide what happens to electricity in Lagos State, and we are gradually moving away from the center. That is what, of course, we know the art is here for, and we're happy that this progress has indeed happened. Nigeria and UN set up $500 million fund for solar energy. Another story we are following, Nigeria and United Nations have launched a $500 million fund to support local developers in the renewable energy sector. Managed by Africa 50, an investment platform of the African Development Bank, the fund will boost access to solar energy through home systems and mini-grids, particularly in rural areas. Luckily, this is part of what we'll be discussing today. How do we expand energy access to rural areas? And indeed, this is a good development coming. Quickly, our next story, the Rural Electrification Agency, REA, launches mini-grids in Cross River. We've seen the REA in many areas and many parts of the country in the last couple of weeks, commissioning and launching different projects. This one is in Cross River, where the agency has inaugurated a 440 kilowatt peak mini grid in Cross River State. The project will now provide stable and sustainable electricity supply to underserved communities, fostering economic development and improve living condition. More mini grids, more solutions to solve our energy problem, and we hope as we tie this back to Mission 300, there will be more to achieve in the long run to close the energy access gap, especially for Nigeria. So, finally, Nigeria's power generation reaches a 4-year high. This means that on the 4th of March, Nigeria's power generation hit 5,000 megawatts plus, the highest in 4 years, surpassing February record of 5,500 megawatts, although it remains 88 megawatts below all-time peak. Recorded in 2021, its increased signals progress in electricity generation. We're happy about this story, that this our generation is going high, but still not enough for the entire country. So every state needs to be like Lagos and 9 other states who have been able to create their market so that we can decentralize this and be able to achieve more, so that we can stop grid disturbance. As they say, we shouldn't call it grid collapse again. As the many debunking news now from the authorities that said, that the grid has not collapsed this year, that we have only had disturbance. So if we want to avoid more disturbance, more states need to take full control of their market, create the regulations, and control the market and create the policies and make sure that Nigerians have stable electricity. These are some of the top stories we have been following in the sector. Today, our conversation is also very important. As I said earlier, we are discussing expanding energy access to rural communities. Our rural communities are very important. How do we power them? Many of them are off the grid. Many of them don't have access. Many of them make up this 86 million people in Nigeria that don't have access to electricity at all. So how do we do this more? More efforts have gone into some of it, but I think there's more that can be done, and it's what we want to discuss today. And I've brought a very important guest into the studio to help us make sense of all of this. Remember, we spoke about something a couple of weeks ago where we saw, allegedly a panel, catching the roof of a building, and our expert has come to explain what this means. And one of the things he hit on was the technical expertise, that you need to be able to have undergone a certain training to fix solar, panels or handle solar equipment as we have it. Pool of talented people who can do some of this job and who are well trained to achieve this result. But we'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, I will let you know who my guest is, and we'll go straight into the conversation. Don't move away.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we'll connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
Welcome back. This is still the Energy Outlook. So, my guest is now in the studio, and as I told you before, we'll be discussing a very important topic. Her name is Chinwe Udo-Davies, CEO of Installer. Chinwe, good to have you again in my studio. I like when we do this, and this time, last conversation was 2 years ago, was it?
Yeah, maybe a year and a half.
A year and a half,
Yeah,
around that.
Yeah, around that time.
And I think since then you've achieved quite a lot. And for those who are watching, she's CEO of Installer. Installer is a company she put together after she left her 7-figure job to solve the problem of energy in the country. And she saw, an opportunity where we are lacking skills and talents. How do we put it together? Maybe you say it better than me.
Okay.
Tell us briefly about Installer. What do you do?
Yeah, thank you so much, Wisdom. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
And it's always a pleasure
Sure.
talking to you about our challenges in the energy sector. Okay, so Installer is a clean tech platform where basically what we're doing is helping to tackle Africa's twin challenge of energy poverty and youth unemployment. So personally, I believe the power of the sun can not only solve the electricity problems, but it can also help create a lot of employment, right? And when we look at the investment coming into the energy sector, we really don't have the workforce to match that investment and the attention clean energy is beginning to have. And like you said, almost 90 million people in Nigeria alone live without electricity. And if we look at it on the African scale, it's over 600 million people on the African continent without energy. And thankfully, we have the sun, we have the investment coming into the sector, but we don't have the workforce. We don't have enough workforce. And then we have a lot of quacks as well. You talked about the panel, burning the roof and things like that. So there is a gap, and like you said, during my 9-to-5 job in the renewable energy sector, I saw a gap with how solar companies assessed workforce, and it was just not sustainable. Because typically what solar companies do is they have a pool of in-house engineers or technicians, and they move them from one location to another.
And that's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work, time, expense. In fact, yesterday we were onboarding a new client who told us the story how they transported 3 engineers by air from Lagos to Uyo for an intervention because an installation had gone bad. And the 3 engineers got there only to realize it was a cable that pulled off.
So they had wasted money.
Wasted money.
Flew
3 people down to Uyo.
So what the installer can do for that person now is you already have
we would
engineers.
we would have
in
connected
Uyo,
them to somebody in
yes.
Uyo.
So they don't need to pay that flight money.
Exactly.
To get to Uyo.
So this is what we're doing.
Okay.
We're growing that pool of engineers and technicians to support the entire ecosystem.
How many engineers are in this pool so far now?
Yes.
And how many locations? We have 36 states in Nigeria.
So far we cover 36 states in Nigeria.
The entire 36 states?
I am proud to say, after 2 years of being at this,
yes.
We now have 1,080 technicians on our network.
Wow.
Right? And we have boots on the ground, 36 states of Nigeria. In some states, we have more. In fact, if you go on our website, installer.com, you would see the numbers. We were transparent enough to tell you, in Lagos, I think we have over 300. In Abuja, maybe about 69. In Kano, maybe about 30. In some states, we have about 3, 5. But there is no local government. So that's the goal for us is within 5 kilometers of a need, we should have somebody skilled.
Okay. So now, solving the issue of access to rural, to rural communities. Now, from your experience, of course, from the work you're doing, what are some of the challenges where we try to, provide power for rural communities?
Yeah. So there are a lot of challenges, right? And when I meet someone in the solar space, the first question I ask, I'm like, what part of the elephant are you tackling? Because it's a huge problem, right? And the players in the sector try to tackle the problem from different angles. But talking about the rural people, so of course there's the infrastructure that they don't have, right? You and I living in the city, we talk about, NEPA has come and NEPA has not come. There are people who NEPA had never taken a cable
never got
to their community ever. There are children in this country that have never seen, they don't even know what NEPA is, right? They have no idea. Or what are they called now? The discos and they don't know that because no one has ever been to that community. Yeah. So there is that infrastructure deficit that we don't have in the rural community. And there's a problem of finance, right? But I think a big problem, which is what we tackle, right, is actually the workforce and the skill. And I tell you why. Typically, the solar companies are based in the cities, right? Their head offices would be either in Lagos or in an Abuja or, maybe a Kano or Port Harcourt, right? But the people who actually need power are in the rural communities. So that's reaching the last mile is a challenge, right? I just explained about the expense to go. Even when they go the first time to do an installation, they would not go repeatedly to maintain. So then it now affects the perception of solar. And people say, my solar doesn't work. It doesn't work because there are no network of engineers close by to maintain. So that's the importance of, another importance of what we do.
So at that instance now you can send
an very quickly. Yeah, right. If we have, and this is the goal for us, to train people within, apart from creating the job, it's really to support the ecosystem. So installations last longer because the after sales maintenance, the post installation, it's very important how the frequency of maintaining those systems. And when you don't have people around, it then becomes a burden to send people from a far location.
So now we want to close the gap for 300 million Africans. And Nigeria, I mean, that number is nearly 90 million.
Nearly 90 million.
For you now, where do we need to start? Is it funding that is the issue to create this access, or what is it? How do we begin to solve this problem?
The big elephant.
The big elephant. Because we have 5 years now.
We have 5
years before 2030 to do this. I feel like it's a huge mission. Last week, my guest on the program talked about open source. Open source for energy access. How do we collaborate? How do we bring together, things to help us achieve the same aim and not reinventing the wheel. That's what open source is talking about now. But there's still a huge, different challenges. For you, how do we close this before 2020?
So I think we actually have an advantage, and which is the sun. right? We have the power of the sun.
Yes.
And I think that's an opportunity for us to help close the gap, right? But within this, so basically we're talking about solar solution, but we also have to realize that solar is expensive. The investment in solar is expensive. So there is that funding, the financing that people at the rural communities need. And I think a couple of companies are also beginning to, reconfigure their model where they have pay-go devices attached to the equipment, and then we're also beginning to see solar companies embed financing, right? There are solar companies now that just come with financing solutions as well. And I think regulation, policy, government policy needs to support.
What kind of policy will support all of this now?
Right. So I think there is a lot government needs to do, right? Individual players are doing a lot, right? But government needs to create a level playing ground for everybody. The infrastructure. So first of all, we need to, this whole grid, the national grid needs to be unbundled. I don't understand why even, when I generate solar, I need to now feed it to the grid before. I think there's a rule around that. I cannot generate solar and even, give within my community, right? So government needs to decentralize.
I think we've done that with the Electricity Act. It's just taking a bit, it's slow. So far, 10 states have been able to adopt the policy.
Yeah. They've adopted, but have they implemented?
Yeah, we're watching them. Only Lagos now has taken full control.
Lagos has taken full control. So I think, I think we probably pay a lot of lip service to the problem. We know what to do, and we're not doing it. And basically just supporting, the...
Okay. So just come back to the whole talent and skill thing now. It's still something I see players still complain, as they are trying to also go into some of these communities. So if I want to go and do an installation in Sokoto now, and I mean, I have the funding, but I look at how much I'm going to pay for talent or for engineers. And how do you make this easy for those people?
All right. Okay, right. So we've embedded technology. We're doing it with technology, right? Our platform matches your project using skill and location algorithm. So if you say to us, you're based in Lagos, and you say to us, oh, installer, we have a project in Sokoto, and we need XYZ type of persons to do that project. We feed that into our platform, and it matches your need to the skill and the location of that person, and the whole point is to match you someone close to your project. And above that as well, we also have unveiled a project management platform as well. So whilst you're here in Lagos, you're also following what's happening in Sokoto.
Have you had the time to visit any of these communities that your people work for?
Oh yeah, we do, and we have people on the ground. We have compliance and quality officers as well, regional, that sometimes go. But for us to be able to scale and do a lot, we're doing most of what we do through technology, right? So most of our trainings we do virtually, then we organize hands-on physical trainings as well. On the platform I was talking about, solar companies can follow their projects and receive reports or receive pictures and videos of their projects from wherever they are sitting in the world.
This market is huge.
It is.
We know installer cannot absorb the market.
Absolutely.
At what point do you feel like, the market size might just overwhelm you? Because I don't know, I don't see many people doing what you're doing.
No.
I know of one other company who does this. But
similar, but it's not
there's
the same.
so much work in the rural communities. The last mile, upon all the work we're doing, all the money, we don't see any changes there. Why?
We don't. So this is it. That's what I'm saying to you, right? It is the network. Without the network, it is difficult. It's difficult for solar companies to actually reach the last mile. Right. So I think that's one of the things that would unlock it. Right. So I give you an example. Companies who now work with us have been able to scale because on our network, it's easier for them to reach the last mile easily. I give you a clear story.
Yes, please.
Right, a company who we work with that sells solar freezers, when we started working with them, they used to be only in the southwest of Nigeria. But working with us, they are now selling in Boko Haram in Borno. Right? Yes.
How did they achieve that?
Exactly, through our network. Because there are people there. We've identified installers, we've trained installers. Now, the story is, so on this particular occasion, a military officer bought a freezer and they delivered it to that location from Lagos. So the logistics moved from Lagos to Borno State and arrived. They didn't deliver a component.
Okay.
Right? Our installer showed up to do the project, and the military guy said, oh, welcome, by the way, this was not delivered. So until your company, and our installers always show up as the company we work with, right? So the guy will show up as them, right? And the guy was like, you didn't deliver this. And of course, it became like an emergency situation. What would they have done? Because they needed to deliver that item. So without us, what we would have meant was that installer would have come back to Lagos, or maybe he would have sat there waiting. He would have either come back to pick that item, or he would have sat there waiting, and someone will move from Lagos to, to Borno to deliver the item. But with our network, we, assigned another installer to go to the open market, source the item, deliver it back, and
so for what you're saying, I see there's a network.
It is a network. It's a network.
Secondly, this whole thing is not, like you said, it's not cheap. So it seems still expensive for the rural people.
Of course.
So after they've installed the mini grid in the communities, for example, down in Borno or Sokoto, how are they able to pay? What has been your experience in how these companies have been able to manage
to do it?
Some of this?
Yeah, so I think a lot of companies actually target for productive use because the payment is very important, right? It's either if the company is doing it for business, for profit, they then have to go to a community where there's an activity, business activity. Otherwise, that company, unless it's an NGO that is doing a pro bono work. And I think this is where some of the challenges
so they tie the project to productive
They usually tie the project to productive use because someone has to pay, right? It's not free. And as we have been saying, solar is expensive. So this is what they do. So from that activity that happens in that community, that they are farming or they are fishing or whatever, they are able to pay on a daily or a monthly basis, and they usually put metering solutions in the homes, which I think it's a fair, because they are also spending on their energy anyway. They are either burning candle, burning charcoal or something. There is some type of expense happening in that community without the clean energy anyway, right? So, but I think the key is not making it too expensive for them. Let it be somewhere, whatever daily payment that has to be made should be close to what they're already used to paying.
Tomorrow is International Women's Day, and happy International Women's Day ahead tomorrow.
Thank you.
And just to say that again, women, all of this again ties around women.
Absolutely.
And how they're cooking and all of that is still part of the conversation. How can we make this much easier? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there is data to support that. In this whole energy poverty, we talk about women suffer the most, right? Because women are running their homes, we're the ones cooking, we're the ones taking care of the children and, things like that. So there is, and also a lot of rural women are also now, building SMEs, creating SMEs.
Do you have women as part of your installers?
Yes, So what we have done as well was when we started working and trying to even identify and train, we realized that the number of women in the sector was really slim. And I'm talking about in green skills, right? On our database at the time, we had less than 2% women, which was not sitting well with me as a female founder, right? Every day, every Friday. So usually Fridays are payout days. And when we're paying...
you pay them weekly?
Yeah, we pay our installers weekly, yes.
Okay.
And we're paying out on Fridays, and we're not paying any woman. And that didn't sit well at all with me.
So what did you do?
Yeah, then we introduced the Install Her initiative.
Install Her?
Install Her, yeah, where we're targeting rural women that are interested to earn in the grid economy. We train them to become solar installers and also give them some type of SME entrepreneurial training as well, where they can do DSA sales for the solar product. So they can be direct sales agent to solar. So it's either you pivot into a solar installer or you do sales, agency sales for solar companies. And we just didn't train. We also reached out to our solar partners, the companies we're working with, to extend internship. In fact, yesterday I was with Natasha Ibori, who is also a female founder who runs Wada Energy. She was one of the people who, offered a 6-month internship to one of those women. And yesterday she was giving me a beautiful story, how she's so happy, she's now an independent installer. She's, in fact, I think they are featuring her today for their international women. Yeah, and out of that training, with the 1.0 we did, we got women who now got scholarship to further in renewable energy, cool companies
because
like
it's a
Cool
space
Box.
That is mostly dominated by men.
It is.
And really, I feel how can women catch up? And that's why when I see leaders like you in this space, I'm wondering, what are you doing to pull more people?
Someone asked me what possessed you to go into solar installation. I mean, so the thing is, right, there is actually a lot of cultural barriers that impede women from coming into the sector, apart from the passion to want to do it. It's not that women are not passionate. In some communities, there are barriers, whatever, cultural, religious barriers, so many things, women are did. Some women feel they'll be judged, or some women feel they'll be laughed at to climb on a roof. Oh, yeah. And of course, we also have women who, maybe have fear of height or things like that. So which is why we curated our curriculum in a way that climbing the roof does not limit you. You mustn't climb the roof to be a solar installer. There are other things you can do. There's a configuration part. You can work on the SHS, the smaller systems. You can do the DSA, like I said. So there are other. So this is how we've curated the curriculum, taking cognizance of all of those barriers that limit women.
And women are responding positively to that.
We are actually going to a 2.0. So the first one, we graduated 31 women, and we're doing a 2.0 with Acumen, where we're targeting at least 100 women.
But just beyond the installer and what you're doing, if you look at the sector-wide itself, what can we do to scale this kind of programs for women, to be able to catch up? This is nearly 5 years I've been in this space. I still see that women are still we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So what can we do beyond your program? So that sector-wide, let's see how more people can.
Yeah, I think government needs to get involved. We need to be intentional and deliberate about it. We need to do a lot of advocacy as well. Some people don't even know that something like green skills exists, right? Let's be honest, it's new.
Yes.
And as a country, or even as a continent, we didn't prepare for the clean energy that has now become, come upon us, right?
Yes.
I don't know how many of our institutions even offer renewable energy. Yeah, I don't know, maybe one, right? So there's a lot of work, and this is where the government policies come in as well. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. But when young people, both male and female, know about green, a green economy, and if we talk about our own model, which is even the gig economy, the future of work, and which is what we're doing, right? Getting the whole sector to rethink how they assess workforce, the approach as well. People are usually excited, especially for younger people, because our model gives them flexibility, it gives them visibility, right? And this is what young people want. Young people want flexibility. I don't think they are like, my generation when we're happy with 9 to 5. And
they want flexibility
they
because
want
nobody wants to kill themselves.
Everybody wants flexi. It doesn't mean they are not working hard.
Yes,
but they just want
they
flexibility.
Want the time to rest.
Yeah.
Yes.
So on our platform, installers they toggle on and off their availability.
Okay.
So they tell us. So if you wake up in the morning, you don't want to work. You say you're not available, and you wake up the next day you want to work.
Yeah.
You talk. You.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a fine place to leave that. We want to go on a short break.
Yeah.
But before we go, just on the issue of energy security and transition, I'd mentioned last week when the Nigeria International Energy Summit held, there were different conversations on what should we do, where should we go on energy transition, or let's try and achieve energy security. I want to show you a quick clip of what the Minister of State, Petroleum Oil, Senator Henneken, said at that summit on the issue of energy security and transition. Let's watch that briefly, and then we'll come back after this break.
So we are not in competition, but we have a common objective of unlocking the potentials that exist in Africa that is in abundance. Let's see how we can attract the requisite investment and solve the issue of energy poverty in Nigeria. Don't be deceived by the rhetoric about energy transition. We're not against energy transition, but before you transit, you must have energy security first. I've always given this story that when I was in Cape Town, somebody made a statement that, Burj Khalifa is 160 floors. Those in the global north use the lift to go to 160th floor. And they just switched off the lift. Say, Africa, take the staircase. By the time you get there, they have finished the meeting. Even if the meeting is going on, you are tired. You have no contribution to make. That is not the ambition of Africa. Africa needs strategic partnerships. Africa needs investment. Africa already has substantial investment in oil and gas. We want to expand the investments, much more than most countries in the global north. We have a robust regulatory framework on exploration in a cleaner, greener, and more sustainable way. We have adopted gas as a transition fuel. We have a law on climate change. We have penalties for gas flaring. These things may not exist in most other countries in the West. But in addition to this, the priority should be energy security for industrialization and growth. Anything short of that, Africa will not follow. Let me conclude, by thanking all of you to be part of the summit.
All right, welcome back. This is still the Energy Outlook, and that was the Honorable Minister State, Petroleum, Senator Henneken Lokobere, and he spoke extensively on the issue of energy security and transition. So I just come to the room now with my guest, Chinwe Udo-Davies, who is CEO of Installer. Yes. What do you think? Energy security transition?
I know. I mean, what I think is that people just need light, right? I know, right? I don't think the rural woman is interested in what you want to call it.
Yes.
If it's security, transition, just transition.
Just give us light.
Just give us light. That's what I think, and I think he has a lot of points, right? Because so the global north, of course, is moving to clean. We're still we're still catching up, and it's difficult to tell us, abandon even the one we have and go completely clean. But I think also as a continent, we also have to be future for looking, right? Yes. We need to balance it. Yes. Whilst we want to still utilize how we've been doing it, that is working, we need to gradually also, not even gradually, begin to adopt the new technology so we catch up. Because if we constantly stay in the old technology, that means we will always be catching up. We would never be there. So we would always, be the ones left behind. So I think that's a big challenge for government to see how they balance things out, right? That's what I would say.
We have 5 years to 2030 to achieve this Mission 300. I like to always go back to it because it seems like what is going to guide all of us in the energy sector in the next 5 years. What are your confidence around if we can achieve this in 5 years?
I think it's quite an audacious ambition,
yes,
but I think it needs to be audacious, right? So if we say it's a Mission 300, so basically the target is to close 50% of the gap, right? Because it's 600 million people on the continent that don't have electricity, and the target is by 2030 to do 300. So it means the target is 50%. If we bring that home to Nigeria, 90 million people, 45 million in 5 years, I think we can do it. Fortunately, we have the DES program, which is currently, about to unveil, or they haven't even launched it. I think that there is an opportunity there. Even in the news you read about the UN deploying, is there another 500 million? There is also an opportunity. And this was what I was saying, that we're lucky to have the investment coming into the sector. So the global north in their, the global north is interested in helping Africa solve this problem.
Yes.
But they would not come and do it by themselves, right? They would provide the funding where they can. I think we need to, try to tackle it in different ways and make it happen. 45 million or 300 million on the continent, I think it's doable.
It's doable.
It is doable in 5 years. So we're looking at 60 million. I'm sorry, even though math was not my strong subject, I tried to look at it. So it's 60 million in a year, isn't it? And if we break it down every month, we're looking like about 5 million every month. I think we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
So for the last 2 years, the work you've been doing, what are some of the lessons that you've learned really? Because why I like the work you're doing is it's critical to how we want to close this access to energy gap, especially for rural communities. And I also want you to speak on the issue of security, because I have visited a community before in Port Harcourt, in River State rather, a Beke community, somewhere in Ichie, and where I saw the mini grid that was installed there. If there's no security from the community, that can indeed be, an issue, for the community itself. So the issue of security, has it been something installers, struggled with some of their clients' facilities? Do you also deploy on that? And then this other issue I raised earlier.
Okay, what was the issue earlier?
The first one I raised was your lesson.
Oh, right, yeah, okay. So let me start with lessons learned. So I think it's been an interesting journey, and I'm very grateful about the journey. The way we had actually thought about our solution has now evolved as well. So the first big lesson for me was, as an entrepreneur. In fact, the first big lesson was even learning that I could do it, that I could actually be an entrepreneur. Because like I said, I was, comfortable in my 9-to-5 executive job. Exactly. And never, if you had asked me 5-6 years ago if I was going to be an entrepreneur, I'd probably tell you that's for my husband. He's the Igbo man that likes to be an entrepreneur. So that's, I think I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about my abilities, and have seen strengths I didn't even know I had. And I am utilizing that to, bring my vision to life. I've also learned that it's chaos, but we are organized. We're trying to put a method to the madness. It is madness, and thankfully I'm a process person.
Okay.
Right, I am a process person by training. So we have
making it easier.
Yeah, we're making it easier, and we're helping the ecosystem simplify energy access. That's one of the
in a
nutshell of what we're doing.
Security.
Yeah, so with security is a big challenge, Wisdom, because, and I don't want to use the word poverty. It will not sound as if we're excusing it, but it's a big challenge general, not only in the mini grid installations or even energy installations. Nigerians just vandalize things, right? Even in the rail, it's a big problem. But what I know that happens in this space when people are the developers are installing mini grids, they have to work with the rural community. So usually you would set up a vigilante. In fact, it's even that setting up vigilante that was the light bulb moment for installer. It was getting in. So we were building, when I used to work for Green Elec, we were building a mini grid somewhere up north in Adamawa.
Yes.
And I was sitting in a security meeting as a HR director with area command, Mopo people, setting up vigilante. And I was like, what is this? So is this what all the solar companies will have to do? It just didn't make sense, apart from finding the skills, moving the people, finding accommodation, thinking about feeding.
Just a lot of things that
it
you
was
have
just
to go
too
through.
much to go
That's
through.
even increasing the...
Yeah, it was just, So then at the end of the day, the profitability on the project is really slim, right? And that was the light bulb moment. I'm like, okay, no, this is not sustainable if this is how... So that's how you have to work with the community to help secure your facility. And I think also working with a platform like ours, where the goal for us is to have an installer close to your location, would also help as well. Yeah.
All right. Most importantly, now I want to ask you now, from your experience, maybe last 2 years, maybe or 3 years, if we are looking at the best solution for the rural communities now, are mini grids working truly and truly, or we should look at solar home systems?
I think it's a combination, right? It's a combination, one, affordability as well. So while we cannot put all rural people in the same bucket, there are people in the rural communities that can get higher level systems.
I asked this question because I read about your new partnership with NextGrid to power rural communities.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, how would that work? Are we saying mini grid is working perfectly well? Is that the solution that really should be looking at for rural communities?
It is one solution. There is no one size fits all. So it is one solution, and it works. One, we talked about the profiling of the community. When the community has been profiled correctly and the grid is installed, they are paying. It's the same thing we're doing now. You're buying light and recharging your meter.
They have put me in Bande. They have put me in Bande.
So it's exactly the same thing. Now, rural SMEs are being, energized, right? You have the rural farmer, the pharmacy. They have electricity, but also there is the place of SHS as well, the smaller home system. So I think it's a mix of and also some rural communities are dispersed. So it's for the mini grid is easier when you can put the homes in a cluster. So for communities that are dispersed, maybe 3, it might be difficult, and for those type of communities, the solar home systems might be better for them.
Now that you have 1,000 plus
80, yes,
and 80 installers, is it
as
safe?
our last count, yeah.
Is it safe to say that the adoption of solar or renewable energy sources, we have come to a stable point? Because 1,000 or something across 36 states, that's a lot.
That's not enough.
It's not enough.
It's not enough.
Okay, so we can't say adoption of solar and the awareness of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Now I'm trying to. So I think the awareness is growing. I think we have. I came into the renewable space in 2010 when I joined Schneider Electric. I think we have, as a country and as a continent. Then people didn't even trust. They would say, they didn't even trust that solar would work. They didn't even trust solar panels, a couple of years ago. But now I think people understand that the solution works. You know, people are now, we have people actively training themselves to even be solar installers, design engineers. So yes, the adoption, the awareness is increasing, but I would not say the work is completely done. There's still a lot of more awareness to be done. There's still a lot of advocacy to be done, and I think it's a huge problem, and the more people come in to help solve, and I think we should all collaborate. It's a big problem, not one company or one individual can solve.
All right. There's so much to be done. And like you said, it's not enough. I mean, I'm calculating 1,000 and something.
I know.
And I'm saying it's not, I mean, I'm thinking it's a lot, but...
Yeah, no, it's not enough because it's not spread evenly. So out of the 1,000, you know, so talent or skill follow opportunity, work opportunity, right? So a lot of, one-third of that, at least 390 of our PV installers are based in Lagos. Then if we look at the data again, it's looking like 40 to 45% are based in the southwest. Then we have some in the south, north central.
Do you train these people? I mean, I can't remember. You train them after you.
So we vet, we vet and we train and we categorize our installers. We put them under different. So they are categorized at residential level, C&I, and large utility scale. So out of the 1,080, we've trained 560 of them, and those 560 are, you know, actively engaged on our platform.
Your curriculum, is it from the NUC or is it
right? So we're trying to figure out. So certification is a big problem in Nigeria. And I was saying that as a country we didn't prepare, right? So there are different things going on. We're in conversations with a couple of the bodies. We would like to be a certification body as well, because as far as I know, we have the largest database of PV installers in Nigeria. So yeah, we're looking to...
You would like to be a certification body yourself?
We're looking to certify, to be a certification body as well.
Is that possible?
Why not? We work with a certification body now. Or would I say we're looking to be an affiliate of a certification body, yeah.
Oh, that would be massive.
Yeah.
That would be massive.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was indeed informative.
Yeah.
And so much we've talked about.
Yeah.
And for me, what is key is how we're expanding, you know, that access to rural communities to get power. And the talents spread across how we also help companies reduce those costs, you know, so they can do more. And that example you gave was I mean, for me, was everything.
Exactly. We help companies
transport 3 people
I know.
to just go and remove a wire.
So working with us puts your cost down minimum 40%.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Want to see more of this happen.
Yeah.
And the goal is to be able to project some of those innovative ideas for everyone to see. But Chinwe Udo-Davies, I've been speaking to, is the CEO of Installer. And in case you missed the conversation, if you're just coming, you can catch the full clip on our YouTube channel, Official Upgrade TV. All right. So before I let you go, everyone, I just want to say I like to leave with a good quote. The lack of access to electricity is a major limiting factor to economic growth, job creation, and social development in Africa. This is a quote by my famous favorite person, Dr. Chinwe Adesina, who is the president of the African Development Bank. And if you look at this critically, it is true. And that's why we bring this conversation to you every week, to share with you some of the innovations and ideas and what is happening within the space. And we keep following the stories, because energy is important, and the lack of it is just making us lose so much. My name is Wisdom Chap Jumbo, and I see you next week, same time, same station, next week Friday. Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light from my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.